Good evening, everybody. I'd like to ask everybody to stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence afterwards. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we start the meeting, I'd like to just read a statement. It is with great sadness that the Board of Education and school community learns of the untimely passing of Robert Grable earlier this month. Rob is not only an alumni of our district, but also a proud parent of three Connecticut students, as well as having served as a member of the Board of Education for several years. While a member of the Board of Education, Rob's experience as a principal in Mount Sinai School District brought a different perspective on education to board discussions that earned the respect of his fellow board trustees and the community. During his time as a T-Bird, he was a three-sport student athlete who went on to proudly represent Connecticut High School as a varsity baseball player at St. John University, and finally was drafted by the Phillies organization. Our varsity baseball team will arrange a special ceremony to honor Rob's long legacy in both local and professional baseball during their opening game this spring. We hope that all the community can join for this special event and help pay tribute to this forever T-Bird. Okay, Mary Jane, to the roll call.
Mr. Dean Middleman, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction.
Present.
Ms. Monica Ramsey, Assistant Superintendent for Special Education. Mr. Reza Kolgifar, the Interim Assistant Superintendent for Personnel.
Present.
Mr. Lawrence Knight, the Interim Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Present.
Dr. Linda Adams, Superintendent of Schools. Ms. Madeline Corliss, President of the Board.
Present.
Ms. Eileen Hanfeld, Vice President of the Board.
Present.
Mr. Mark Horslow,
Present.
Board Trustee. Ms. Jacqueline Napolitano Burnham, Board Trustee.
Present.
Ms. Lee Kennedy, Board Trustee. And Ms. Lisa Hutchinson, Attorney.
Present.
Ms. Gary Jane Body.
Okay, I just want to announce two changes to the discussion items. We are postponing graduation statistics report and freshman orientation awareness to a later date. So those are the two changes to the meeting. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Sorry, minutes. We have minutes of the June 24, 2019. Minutes of the June 26, 2019. Minutes of the July 2nd, 2019. Minutes of the July 5th, 2019 special meeting. I need a motion and a second to accept all minutes.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, looking to take a motion to suspend the planning meeting.
Motion.
Oh, we have to? Okay. I need a motion and a second to suspend.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's start with the appointed committee meeting portion. Go to order. I need a motion and a second. I just want to look at the
Motion.
report. The report.
Where is the report?
Oh, I'm making, there you go. I need a motion and a second to start the appointed committee meeting.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Did we normally get this the night of? Can we get this earlier? That's normally the night of. Normally earlier, right? Normally the night of. This is the
Oh, the planning.
Yes, okay. So thank you for inviting me to the planning meeting. For the community, my name is Jill Sanders. I'm a partner with Coleman and Danowski. And this is my opportunity to discuss with the Board of Education our plan for the external audit for this year. And so the document that I gave you that we're going to talk about, on the first page talks about our objectives. So as the board is aware, I am the external auditor, and my role is to audit the books and records of the school district and the financial statement, and to give an opinion as to whether those financial statements are fairly presented. And so that's what accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States of America. Typically, our report is unmodified, so it's the highest level of assurance that the Board of Education community gets that the financial statements are fairly stated. Because the district receives federal funding, there's also a report on internal controls over the financial reporting and compliance with laws and regulations, and that's in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards. And the state education department requires, this is I'm trying to work. Okay. Can you hear me?
I'm fine.
I can hear you.
Okay, great, great.
Normally I can't, but
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And even though the extra classroom activity funds are not really under the purview of the business office, the state education department asks your external auditor to look at those financial transactions and also to give an opinion on those cash receipts and cash disbursements. Because the district expends more than $750,000 in federal funding, and we know that the district tries to get as much federal funding as they can on an annual basis to support their programs. The district is also required to have what's known as a federal single audit. These are also additional reports on compliance with requirements applicable to the major federal programs, and there's a schedule of expenditures of federal awards that's also included. This is in accordance with the Single Audit Act and Uniform Guidance. On page 2, there's a flow chart of the individuals involved in the audit process, and these individuals have experience. They were involved in the audit last year. And so I thought it in the best interest of the school district to keep the same team as last year. At the top of page 3, from a timetable standpoint, we were here during the week of June 10th, and our role then was to perform the audit plan and determine what the risk assessment phase looked like. This is where we look at the control structure, the checks and balances over the financial transactions, and make a determination as to whether or not we can rely on those in accordance with the financial statement audit. I'll talk about that in a little bit further. The substantive testing and the completion phase takes place after the books and records are closed. So this will be the week of August 19th. And then I will come back and review with you the reports in draft. And you will get those ahead of time. So you'll have the opportunity to review them. You were correct. Okay. So our responsibilities, I'm not going to necessarily go through all the standards that are listed at the bottom of page 3. I think you can read them at your own leisure. And the audit engagements are just a reminder, so the district has a number of controls in place on an external basis. You have an internal claims auditor who looks at every transaction that gives rise to a cash disbursement. You have an accounting firm or audit firm that performs your internal audit function. They prepared a risk assessment for the Board of Education to review. That was back in March. And then the Board of Education with your internal auditor has the choice to look at different areas within that risk assessment to get further information as to how those controls look. So we cannot rely on those reports that are rendered by your internal claims auditor or your internal auditor, but I do use those to determine whether or not I need to expand my audit procedures. So one of the things that we might look at is, we looked at the internal claims audit reports that were released on a monthly basis. If we see something problematic with respect to the controls over the processing of those cash disbursements, then I would do some additional testing, maybe in the cash disbursements area, over and above what I would typically do. Okay? We use materiality. The materiality is prescribed by the AICPA, and there are tables that we use based upon the population to determine what sample size we need to audit. On page 5, so the district has a lot of responsibilities because we're auditing the books and records, we're not keeping the books and records. And so the main thing is even though we're drafting the financial statement, the district has to have an understanding of what's incorporated into those financial statements and what's required as far as supplementary information. Any kind of deficiencies in internal control We asked the district staff to let us know what they might be. We need to evaluate those in terms of whether or not we need to expand our audit procedures, because we want to make sure that the financial information that we're getting is correct and accurate. Adoption of proper accounting policies is nothing new this year to adopt. In the previous year, you might have remembered other post-employment benefits was for reporting purposes only. You needed to have an actuary prepare that study for you. That's the adoption of a proper accounting policy. We may comment in the management letter on internal control findings, but it's the district's responsibility to really have an effective internal control structure in place. And the district has a very good internal control structure in place. This is a large business. My responsibility since I work for the Board of Education, as I said to you in the past, if in the purview of my work I come upon anything in the internal control related area, I do communicate that to you in the management letter. Okay, if there's something that's a higher level, such as a significant deficiency or material weakness, which means that the information in the financial statement could misrepresent, where there could be a situation where there could be poor defalcation, I have a responsibility to the Board of Education to communicate that in writing separately under the standards. I have not had to do that in the past, fortunately, as your auditor, but just so you know, because I do work for the Board of Education, my responsibility is to you. Okay. Fraud, we do design our audit to detect fraud, even though we're not performing a forensic audit with respect to the financial controls that we're evaluating for the financial statement audit. That doesn't mean we're going to perform a forensic audit, so there could be things that may have taken place during the year or in years past. If they have no materiality to the financial statement, it's something that we're not going to evaluate. But we do, as I said before, we do ask staff when we interview them privately to give us information as to whether or not there's anything that we need to be made aware of. At the conclusion of the audit, the last bullet, we asked the district to represent to us that they provided all the information that we need in order to perform the audit and to release the financial statement. So on page 6 then, this is really the meat of what we do. And so the methodology approach starts with planning and a risk assessment. And the risk assessment basically is what areas of the financial records are riskier than others, okay? It would be those that have significant account balances, obviously, and those transactions that are complex. So obviously the largest part of your budget is payroll and benefits, so we spend a lot of time auditing that. Purchasing would be another large cycle that we would be looking at. Cash receipts and bank reconciliations would be another one that we would be looking at. While we do that, we actually interview the staff, as I mentioned before, and we will actually write down in a narrative form what those individuals do as far as their job responsibilities. We then perform a walkthrough, so that means that if you tell me that you prepare a bank reconciliation in a certain way, I need to recreate that to make sure that I come to the same conclusion that you might come to. That's what's a walkthrough. And then depending upon our risk assessment, we'll pull a sample of transactions from the population to further support that that transaction is appropriately reported in the books and records as a result of the financial control structure that we're looking at. We look at the internal audit reports, we look at internal claims auditor reports. If there's any communications from third-party agencies, we request those, we look at those. I talked about the district personnel interview. I read the board minutes up through the end of May. We'll continue to read the board minutes when we come back in and note those items that might be critical to the financial information. For example, you entered into an agreement for an energy performance contract with Johnson Control. No money's taken place so far as we can see. But that's something that's critical to the audit that's evaluated in the context of our looking at the board minutes. We do contact the internal auditor and the claims auditor to make sure that there's no concerns that they have that we need to evaluate in the context of the audit. And we do some preliminary analytical review of account balances. The areas that we look at are at the bottom of the page here. And so we've done a great deal of work in the control area for these particular areas that are noted, tying certain things back in as far as controls over the extra classroom activity funds. Information technology, how does that work? What do the controls look like? Over the financial reporting package, what's the procedures for journal entries, authorization, budget transfers, bank reconciliations, cash disbursements, and payroll. When we come back for the second phase of the audit at the top of page 7, this is where we're actually looking for information to substantiate the numbers that are in the books and records. So we always like third-party information. There's information on the internet through the State Education Department about the funding that's paid to the district. We ask for representations from certain individuals as far as payments that are made to the district. And so we're looking at, as I said before, payroll-related liabilities, revenue recognition for services that are provided. The board takes action as far as funding reserves up to a certain amount, expending those reserves either through the budget as an appropriation. And so we'll look to see that whatever the board's put in place through resolutional budget, that that's what the books and records reflect. Okay? We'll look at capital project expenditures. We'll look also at any additions that are added to the third-party fixed asset inventory report. Are they supported by the .200 equipment codes and capital construction? There are long-term liabilities that are provided for on a timely basis through the budget, but we remember we represent those in another set of financial statements, and so those have to be quantified, and there's actuaries that get involved in providing information for OPEB and the pension retirement two pieces, and so we'll look at those calculations. We'll make sure that those are accurate. And the bottom part then talks about when I come back with the financial statements and draft. And then once you, the Board of Education, say, okay, we understand the financial statements, I will go ahead and transmit them to the State Education Department and the Office of the State Controller. The federal single audit, it's a lot more involved. It's due to the federal single audit clearinghouse by March of 2020. It's a 9-month filing period. So that will be released probably during the last quarter of this year or first quarter of next year. On page 8, then, there are some new standards that are going to be applicable. The last one, General Municipal Reserve, we've already adopted the retirement contribution sub-fund for the teacher's retirement system. You've also gone ahead and authorized funding for that. So that you've already adopted. The two at the top are Government Accounting Standards Board statements that the board will deal with. They're not necessarily something you need to look at for 2020 or 2021. So I will talk a little bit about them more when I come back in. The big one's going to be lease reporting. Okay, and you have basically 2 years to have to deal with that. What questions does the Board of Education have?
I have a question. So if the board wanted to transfer money in for, say, an equipment code, I know there's several equipment codes, how do you take from one equipment code and transfer it to a particular code? Well, I know that we can, but I know there's specific ones that you can draw from to transfer to.
It's a good question for the attorney, but typically those are non-contingent codes, and you're not supposed to transfer each from one non-contingent code to another non-contingent code. But she would be in a better position to really address it because it's legal.
We were advised to ask you.
Has been? Okay. Well, my reading of the allowability is that you cannot transfer from one non-contingent code to
I
another
understand that.
non-contingent code.
So then we would basically look at the several
Several different
codes.
codes, right? So if you
So if I take 3,000 from one code and just say my goal is $20,000, then I piece to make my 20?
Are you asking specifically about equipment?
Yes.
Okay, so if you put in your budget $3,000 for some computer equipment, and it happens to be in the 2110 area, which is the instructional area, and you decide instead of spending $3,000 for that instructional equipment, that you would prefer to have something for central services, you cannot transfer the $3,000.
Yes, because that'd be my
No,
line.
it's a curriculum-based item, a curriculum item. And there's different codes for all the curriculums.
No, that is,
You can't authorize it together.
but you can check with the attorney because this, that's really a legal question. My understanding and interpretation of it is that you cannot, that you can't transfer from one non-contingent code to another non-contingent code. That's my understanding.
Well, we have to look and see what the particular codes are that are being considered, I guess, to do the research or something like that.
I mean, I think the question is if you inadvertently budgeted something, let's just take that same piece of equipment in the 2110 area, and it should have been out of another instructional type code, and it was just an error in which it was placed in the budget, but the purpose was, or the intention was, that it was for that particular item to support that particular educational service. That's a different example, and then I think this is where maybe you need the information.
Exactly.
But the example I gave is clear. I mean,
I understand that piece of it, but it was a piece of equipment that was not originally on the budget. The board is interested in this piece of equipment, so, I understand that we have to take it from somewhere in order to fund it.
If you give me more information, I'm more than happy to look at it with the Board of Education, and maybe the attorney and I can talk.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
I
Any other
have a
questions?
question. I just want to say, should
Put your microphone on, please.
should we find out if we have a class before we, a group willing to, a curriculum for that before we buy it? Should there be a curriculum built before we buy that?
Linda, would you like to answer the question? Right, Dean, would you like to answer the question?
We do currently run a course that would be applicable for the summer.
You do, and how many students in that course?
I think we currently have, it's either, I don't know exactly, but it's either 3 or 4 sections.
3 or 4 sections? No, it's not just one class.
No, it's one course with different sections throughout the day,
One course.
different periods throughout the day.
I'm assuming that other, courses could use this as well, because it's not really slotted for this. It says another science class comes tomorrow at the table. I'm assuming they can.
Yes, definitely our science research, as well as even our athletic training course, and some of our other science courses that deal with human mechanics.
Any other questions?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You too.
So I need a motion and a second to adjourn the audit committee meeting.
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on to discussion items. Mr. Don Flynn, you have the table. Is that table? Mary Jane, is that table? Is that table?
Yes.
Wherever you prefer, sir.
So good evening. I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of what tonight is and what it's not. It's just a very brief comment on the district-wide safety plan. I'll let you know a little bit about the difference between the district-wide safety plan, the building level emergency response plans, and other things that the district has in place. This is nothing unusual. This is a process that we follow every year. And although the plans talk about are approved before the start of the school year, by state regs, they're not due until October 1st or October 15th, but here in Connecticut, we've made the point that our plans are always in place before the opening of school, before our first staff member, our first students arrive. So, although they're submitted, they're never finalized, they are always fluid, and we're working on them throughout the year. So, again, briefly, the district-wide safety plan, I consider it a global overview of what we do in the district. I'm very cognizant of what goes into the district-wide safety plans because I'm very aware of scenarios in most situations that involve threats to locations. Approximately 82% of active shooters spend in excess of 30 days doing their plans. I think you find that in the last 2 incidents, one in California, one in Tennessee today. So I am very cognizant of what we put in. So our district-wide plan will be, as I said, very global. It'll talk a little bit about what we do, but when we talk about the building level emergency response plans, a lot more granular, and then something that we started here in the district a very long time ago, which is our very confidential plans, and then we have our quick guides also, which are very granular. These are confidential in nature. So they all build off each other. They're all cohesive. But the building level plans are approximately 80 pages in length. Our guidebook, which is specifically germane to the district on what we do on a day-to-day basis, is approximately 20-something pages. And then for all the staff in the district, and I have to thank Jerry, who's in the back, because she can attest to the fact that how fluid the plans are, because usually the day before I need them, I'm asking them to print up 500 copies. So we, throughout the year, we're constantly tweaking them based upon the drills we do during the year. But again, just talking today about the district-wide plan, give you an idea of what is in it without talking, speaking specifics. But it involves National Terrorism Advisory Alert System. It talks about active shooter, having planned for active shooter, active killer, but not talking about what actually our responses would be. Recognizing potential workplace violence, intruders, trespassers, hostage, medical bomb threats, fire, emergency, explosion, and on and on. It's an all-hazards approach to emergency management. But what you would see in the district-wide plan is just that we have them included, but not what our reactions would be. And I've had over the last 13, 14 years I've been doing this, do assessments across the state, and even to this day, it continues to surprise me what districts continue to put on their public website as to what their responses will be. So again, I'll say for the third time, we're very cognizant as to what goes into the plan. We have planning committees throughout the year. We meet between 3 and 4 times a year. I think the first one for us this year is planned for August 7th in this building here. The committee will get together. We'll have representatives from our SRO, our COPE office. You may know in the district we have 3 of the employees in the security department happen to be either former or present fire chiefs with each of the 3 departments. So we have a representative of Lakeland, representative of Bohemia, and West Sable that also during the year give recommendations as far as our plans. So I just want to give a brief breakdown to what that looks like, and on August 7th, when we get together, we'll continue to look at and I said the plans are always fluid. Throughout June, July, we've already made a number of changes to the plan. And so if there are any questions at this point, I'll see what I can answer, but I will not get very specific as to what's in them. There are a number of employees that are in the room right now, and that I'm sure they're familiar with either the guidebook or the quick guide. The plan is in the beginning of the year, as we do every year, we get every staff member in the district together. That'd be food service, faculty, grounds, and we review, give a quick review of what our plans are on a day-to-day basis, and then we look for feedback. We also do tabletop exercises during the year, functional and full-scale exercises. So they're always a work in progress and they're never completed. So
I have a question. Obviously, we spend quite a few dollars on the man traps, which is great. I know definitely helps some parents feel a little bit more secure about how you enter into the front of buildings. But there's still lingering out there that we have side doors open, back doors open. I mean, are we going to try to alleviate that in some way?
So, the man traps, security vestibules, as I call them, we spend a lot of money. And when we went down that road, and I was an advocate, I still am an advocate. One of the things I said back then was that we can't get one-dimensional as to what we do. It's a help. It was not built for just the 1 in a million scenario. It's built on a day-to-day. So this is where we need the help from everybody in the community, because we try to find that balance between a safe work environment, but also balance it with a welcoming. But those particular things, as far as doors being opened up and left ajar, continue to be a challenge. So I've said forever, security just doesn't belong to the security department. The staff in this district is extremely cognizant, extremely proactive. The boards have always been in this district, as well as the administration. So it's really a team effort, but when never done, and we can't get complacent. One of the things that I'm very, very pleased with the progress I think that was made across the country last year. Unfortunately, it happened on the heels of a tragedy. What concerns me at this point in time is that if you look, workplace violence shootings are up about 40 to 50%, and it's school K-12 are down almost 50%, and I worry about complacency. And I call it, also the warm weather factor, is that when the buildings get warm, windows and doors and things of that nature. So without getting specific, I think it is a great point that you bring up. It's a great reminder whenever we are together with the staff, faculty meetings, staff meetings. We have the training at the beginning of the year, superintendent's conference days throughout the year. That's the message. It just can't be about the security vestibule or the man trap, so to speak. It's the entire infrastructure and building envelope as far as up around, the exterior buildings also.
Any other questions from the board?
I actually, thank you, Don. You helped a few weeks ago with the high school. I think we really need to let the community know as well that during the summer months and when we're doing things there, we might be better off, you know, if it's locked down a little bit more. You guys did a great job. But I think the parents have to help as well. I know I was there at the school a bunch of times, and you know, the parents are going to open the door, and it's hard to say to another parent, you know, that they're knocking on the door and they want you to open it. And I mean, it was hard for me. I'm like, you have to go the other way, and then they come around and they're upset with you, and I understand that. But I also understand that I've always been an advocate for security, and I'll take the extra walk around the school if it means that I'm going to pass a security guard who checks, you know, my ID, and then I walk in and everybody's children are secure. Everybody's children are safe. Rather than having parents that are annoyed, and I'm sorry for that, but sometimes we got to go a little bit extra, walking around, doing whatever, if it means our kids are safe. That's got to be number one, and I appreciate you always doing that.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. That wasn't the setup when Jackie was there that morning, and she did get abused, as did, and we don't do it, and we say this all the time, security is not always convenient. But, you know, I'm also tasked as far as a fiscal responsibility to the board. So we don't, I'll say this district has never cut corners as far as it comes to security. That being said, I'm also aware of, when Mylan talks about the security vestibule, we have that in place, but we want, you know, a door to the left opened up because that's more convenient, or a door to the right opened up, or a door to the athletics, or a door to, you know, and we wind up with a multiple open doors. So why am I paying security to sit at the front entrance and through a security vestibule if we're opening every door? I know it's a little bit convenient. You can abuse me, you know, a little bit, but believe me, we all have it's all in the best interest of not just us students, but our staff. You know, I talk about workplace violence, it encompasses all walks of that. So I really appreciate you bringing up that piece, so thank you.
I guess my last question would be is, has the traffic been lessened in the morning at the high school?
No.
Is this something you're going to be discussing in your safety plan?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to be discussing this in your safety plan as well?
So two things I will. I say no and I say yes, you know, yes to some extent. Obviously with the, you know, we've eliminated, you know, the building principal and the decision not to have juniors drive, you know, obviously is cut down to some extent, but I think if you ask the people between 6:35 or 6:42 in the morning and 7:10, 7:11, I think they would tell you that no, there really has not been an improvement in the traffic, and sometimes it's exacerbated. I mean, weather plays a factor. The time of the year plays a factor. You get into the latter part of the year and more seniors have licenses, so the reality, I'm going to think real granular pieces, but the bottom line is, are we seeing a difference on 7th? And the reality is no. I see more and more kids, you know, being driven, and that's a, you know, that's a challenge. I see more and more buses coming in, less kids, but not 7th Street is not improved. So as far as addressing it in the safety plan, listen, I think I've been in this room more than a dozen times where we've had the pros and the cons, you know, as far as, you know, how to alleviate that. I don't think it's any great secret. I think that everybody who has come through this district, whether they be a board member, an administrator at that building, or administrator in the district, everybody has a solution. You know, I just put it out there. Everybody has a solution, but you know, it all comes down to the same. You know, you can't reinvent the wheel, set it forever. You know, when you go on the LIE at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's the LIE. You know, unless there's, you know, more lanes built above it, or there's another option. So it's not a great big secret as far as what it is. It's either you know, you do things or you don't do things. But throughout the years, there's been numerous suggestions and proposals. But that's up, you know, powers that be as to how we. But right to the yes or no, there's been no improvement on 7th Street.
So that leads me to my next question. So if, God forbid, in case there's an emergency, that has been a very big concern of many of us. How are we getting out?
Okay. And let's see, about 2:47 p.m. today, I was out at the evacuation gate. We have an evacuation gate that in case that has to be utilized. We utilize that gate in true form once a year, and that's at graduation, because otherwise it'd take about 3 or 4 hours to go off property. So we use it for 2 reasons. We use it to help expedite the flow of traffic off ground, but we also utilize it as a reminder that it is there. In a real situation, they're getting in. They're getting in one way or another. Every time we do a drill at the high school, every time we do a drill, or even when a fire alarm goes off, we shut down 7th Street. That's the job of the individuals up at the front gate, to shut down the flow of traffic. And that's the 2 reasons: to leave the other lane of traffic, the outbound traffic, open for incoming traffic, and it's also to give us that other option. Is it the best case scenario? No, but it gets the job done. And as a first responder point of view, if you want to get in, you get in. So, but obviously you have other options. But we do utilize the evacuation gate police once a year.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
What about the circle? You keep saying the circle is one of the causes for the problem.
Who said that?
A lot of people, they just say it's the circle, it's the circle.
You have never heard that from me. And here's the thing what I'll tell you from my opinion also. As far as whether it be the circle, which encompasses, if there's an architect who wants to redesign the circle, which leaves intact that security booth, then let's discuss it. If there's a suggestion to remove that security booth out front, you will hear one of the most strongest recommendations from me as far as not doing that. If anything, because there are things as far as that are not written into the public plans that I will not discuss that is utilized for. And I think it would be I'll use the word, a grave mistake to eliminate that option and capabilities that go along with it. So for those that think it's just to keep the guy out of rain or whatsoever, that's not the case whatsoever. So if it's the guard booth that's causing inconvenience, that's one thing. As I said, Lee, if there's an architect who can, I'm not an architect, if it's an architect who can design something that would leave intact, then let's discuss it. But I would never be in favor of removing that, and you'll see more and more over the summer. I can name a half a dozen districts right now we've had that booth there about 12 years, 13 years. There are districts, a half a dozen I know this summer are actually putting them in, and some waiting to be delivered this week. So I think we did some 13 years ago that districts are just starting to do.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn, I appreciate it. Okay, we're moving on to... I'll let you on. Okay, moving on to public comment. I ask that you step to the podium. You may address the board president only. Please do not use a child's name, an employee's name, and keep it respectful.
Where are we on the doors? I know that some of the film has gone up. Where are we on the doors?
So Mr. Allen isn't here tonight to give that update, but I can certainly put it on the website under the board docs. There's a category now of questions that were asked, and we will put all the information up so the public can review it.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else?
I apologize in advance. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Peggy Tottarello. I worked for Connect Live for 28 years. I've lived in the district for 48 years. And you said not to mention names, so I won't. But there's a position that one of our assistant principals would like to move up to in central office. And I just want to say, as a taxpayer, as a parent, and as a lover of Connect Live, I can't see any reason, if there's an equal playing field, and one of our own who graduated from this wonderful school wants to move up and give back, it should be seriously considered. Because no one's going to give back more to Connecticut than our graduates. If you walk through any of our buildings, many of our teachers are Connecticut graduates. The students love our graduates, the graduates love the parents. Myself, having 4 children, I know so many of these teachers personally because they grew up in my house. And I was just hoping that I'm a nobody, but I'm somebody who loves Connecticut, and I would just hope you would consider that young man for that position. Thank you.
And thank you for your service over the years.
I just want to make a quick statement. Talking for myself and many other community members, to express our disappointment that it took so long for the district, whether it's the board or administration, to make any kind of statement about Rob Cribble's passing. It's been almost 2 weeks. Last time I came out with it within a day. We should have done something a lot sooner. It's very, very disappointing.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Stephanie Cassine. I would just also like to talk about the person trying to move up in the district. He's been in the district for a very long time. He knows the needs of the district as well as anyone else out there, and he has the support of all the staff, faculty, administration, and the community. So I really think he's someone who should be reconsidered if that's a possibility. Thank you.
Hello. I also want to speak about the person that wants to move up in the district. I want you to view me as a psychologist right now, because I've worked with this gentleman for about 15 years, and I know him very well. Very well respected by the community, by the teachers. Very respectful towards everybody that he deals with. He tends to be the go-to person in the high school when there are difficulties. He's given his heart to this district. He grew up here. He bleeds Connecticut. I very much think that he'd be an asset, with all due respect to the gentleman that is mentioned right now. I think he'd be an asset to the district. Like I said, it's one with the staff, but he also has positive relationships with, across not only the faculty, not only the teachers, but secretarial staff, custodial staff. All the unions that deal with him are endorsing because they have positive relationships with him. So I very much think that he should be considered, reconsidered, whatever verbiage you want to use. Because I think he really does deserve the job, and I think he's doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to say? Just to speak on that topic briefly, the way that it goes is that the superintendent, I know I've been getting a lot of calls, I believe my fellow board members have been getting a lot of calls and pressure and things like that. We don't make the recommendation. We go on what is recommended to us. So I understand that there were some emails that were sent today, some were sent to the board. I'm not sure how many were sent to you directly. I just want you to know, I do read every email. I do appreciate the time that everybody takes to send your email. So I do read it. I think I can say that for the rest of the board. We all read your email. So thank you.
Thank you.
right, so we're moving on to okay, recommended action. I need a motion and a second to approve financial matters 2 through 6. So to claim, okay, so to claim audit, it's the Treasury report for May 2019, appropriation status, revenue status, and overtime status. So take a motion and second, and you can ask questions. Second? Okay. Eileen?
All right, so, it was food for events, 279.78, 95.59. This is money that I wanted to know what these events were, who authorizes this, and this money can be used for child and infant corner trip. What is this? How do we spend money on food when we always say that we can't spend money on a kid?
These are actually, you talk about the bonus report?
Yeah, had food. And it didn't say what events, it had $279.70, $95.59 for food.
Yes.
For an event.
One of those events was actually the day-long calendar workshop.
Day-long what workshop?
The calendar workshop that we bring in the public for. It started about 8 o'clock, and I think this year got out at 4:30. And another one was a day-long meeting where we do our staff.
Okay, so, it's still, so I'm guessing that you authorize that then. So then how do we justify district money for food when we can't justify district money for a kid that can't afford a water check?
This is part of the budget, and as part of supplies, because one of the things that you're allowed to provide food for is when you're going to have a meeting that goes to, or an event that goes to an entire day.
Okay.
So it's in the budget for that.
Okay. All right, then there was, $550 for a DJ. What was the DJ?
You guys are really lights. I'm sorry, it's one of us.
$550 for a DJ. It says, DJ contract only signed by the vendor, agreement should also be signed by the district. That was $550 for that.
Yeah, this is an auditor's report. This was something that was an anomaly, and I would need to look into what that was actually for.
If it wasn't an anomaly, I wouldn't know that we had a DJ, so I'm kind of glad it happened.
Right, and it could have been DJ for Awareness Day in February.
Okay. Whatever it was, I just want to know what it's for.
This was Senior Day?
Could have been.
It could have been for Senior Day, so I can find out.
I'd like to know, because, I mean, again, $550 we pay for a DJ, we can, I mean, that's district funds. We pay for a kid that can't afford to go on a trip. I know that, personally, but a lot of parents don't know. So that's why I put it out. What was Stormworks? And why were they submitting a bill that wasn't in their contract for $750?
Again, these are things that I would have to look into because this was part of this report, so I would have to get that information.
Okay, so then my next question is also, if you can get me the question on that, what is Triple Crown Sports? Triple Crown Sports, what is that for?
Okay, so those three.
Yes, please. Treasurer's report. Remember when Ray was serving as a board member, he asked Sharon, I think it was at the time, to increase the interest rates. I want to know if that was done, because I saw a lot of the interest rates on this report were somewhere 1%, somewhere 2% and higher. I want to know, if we can continue to renegotiate those rates to get more money into the district. I mean, they're very, very, like one whole way up to 2.5.
I know that Sharon had done significant work in moving them into higher rate funds, but we can certainly get you that information.
Okay. When will the appropriations be done for the 18-19 school year? Probably through May, there's like $14 million left. I don't know when that's.
Usually those in September.
Is it September?
Yeah, usually see those in September.
September? Thanks.
It's not a close of the books, it's just the report you're looking for.
Yes, so the appropriation, yeah. And then there was some, on the OT reports, there was Boston administration. Oh, business administration, sorry. Business administration, HR, central debt.
That would be the secretary of the clericals.
That's the clericals, not, because it says administration.
Yes, but that comes out of the administration.
Okay. Security had overtime in that contract?
I would have to look up who had overtime for that.
Okay, can you let me know that? And then, central data processing. What is that? What is non-instructional curriculum for central data processing?
That's an overtime also?
Yeah, I think
That's usually our IT staff.
the IT staff, they have overtime.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and then non-instructional comp, it says comp assist INST. The comp period, ASST period, INST, non-instructional.
I don't have a report in front of me, so I don't know exactly, but I'm gonna have to look at it.
Yeah, that's fine, you'll get back to me, and you'll put that on the board docs, right?
Can you tell me, can you show me what that actually is?
And then, this is like,
Eileen, is there a budget code on it?
It was, yeah, non-instructional. Yeah, it's a COMP, where is that? There you go. Computer assistant. What is that? So why is this, what's the difference between this one and this? These two are two. Yeah. Yeah. 26, 36. Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Got any other questions?
Not on that.
Okay, I actually have a question. So I was looking, I don't think it's in this, maybe it's not in here, but it's still a financial question. Looking at the lunch food program, so I had Dr. Adams just told us the numbers for me. So from where I gather, and again, these are not set stone numbers, these are what she was able to gather. So if I'm understanding this correctly, we're at a $480,000 deficit
That's anticipated, yes.
for the lunch school program. $14,000 of that is write-off on negative student account balances. The majority of that is from transfers. So I'm looking forward to having our lunch consultant come in and look at ways and how we can reduce this deficit, because it seems to be creeping up. It accumulates to $480,000.
Right, so when we transfer money,
Including-
where do we transfer it to?
The lunch fund. The lunch fund.
When we transfer money into it?
Lunch fund, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So, last year, I think we were running around 300,000, now we're running, again, these are not set numbers, but approximately 180,000 over.
How is that happening when it's only $14,000 from bad debt?
So, again, pretty substantial number from last year. There's somehow, what's happening. And this is again, for a deficit.
Yeah.
It's a significant number. It's almost $500,000 in lunch deficit.
Well, what is that from? When so we know, because that, Mike just said only $14,000 of write-off of bad debt.
It's operational costs. So it's operational costs that are over and above what we're recouping in the sale of lunches.
Okay. We don't have, do we budget for that now?
We budget, but I think seems like,
Do we budget for those salaries? Like, are we not budgeting enough for salaries and?
No, it's a part of it have to do with attrition or with the amount of students we have buying lunch in the schools.
well, these are questions we're gonna have to ask the lunch consultant, because this is what she's supposed to be reviewing. The trends, who's buying, who's not buying.
Yeah, but this is,
Want to get that low.
well, this has been going on for ad nauseum, and we were told we were one of the, we didn't lose as much as other districts are losing. but I think it's getting worse. I think it's because there's attrition through the schools, we have a lot less kids. You know, so I think that's part of the equation. But this has been an ongoing problem since the last 21 years that I am aware of. And what I was told, we're not as bad as other districts when it comes to that.
Yeah, but now we're coming up to $500 million.
Right, but, you know, we lost hundreds of kids
Exactly, so why is our debt still increasing?
because we still have the same amount of staff. We still buy the same amount of food.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do.
Permanent schools have gone down in staff.
How much?
There's not full-time workers or not equal from
I don't know, I don't
I'll tell
have
you that.
that, I don't have that answer. I'm just only telling you, you know, what little I know. I don't know. I didn't really see a staff reduction on here, on paper that we approved. So I'm only going by basically on what I see and what I've been told through the years that we're losing students. So losing students, you lose money from buying lunches.
Yeah, so again, are you putting out, and again, I'm just throwing out whole numbers there, you're throwing out $100,000 of food, but you know you're only gonna sell 80,000 of it, you know.
Well, I know, but you still have the same overhead, basically, when you even service less people. You know, just like in a restaurant, you still have the same overhead when you service less people. That's just maybe one little piece of it, but this has been a losing game for many years.
No,
Right, so we gotta fix it.
I appreciate, listen, I understand that this will, you know, this will never be a break even. But when you start to see from last year 300,000, now
Oh, I'm
408,000.
not disagreeing, but I'm trying to think of some of the reasons possibly why. I mean, we might have closed a school. We still have a principal, we still have this, we still have that, we still have the overhead. Because, and even though we have a lot less kids, you know, we still have to clean the building, we still have to do this, we still do that. Just because we have 100 kids in the building, we have the same overhead as before. That's the only point I was trying to make. You know, I don't really know.
No, that makes sense.
No, definitely makes sense. But as far as what you were saying before, that we're sort of running with all the other districts as far as the deficit goes, the consultant that did sit down with us, she did say we were pretty significant.
Yeah, I know we were, but I was told we were.
I mean, we're in relation to other districts, we're pretty significant.
No, I was told the opposite.
Did you get that impression, Eileen?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, she said we're pretty significant.
I guess we can ask our new assistant superintendent, who, congratulations, welcome aboard,
I didn't get to that point yet.
to look into what other districts are losing.
Good question. I haven't heard great things about our lunch program. I'm just going off of, I don't know, is it possible that less kids are buying lunch? I mean, I haven't heard great things. That's just, you know.
Well, that's a scenario that we're hoping to hear from the consultant. If I'm anxious to get her in, hopefully we'll have her in at our next August 20th meeting, because I know I have a ton of questions.
I mean,
Listen, if the children are eating, I don't care about the deficit, but the few times that I did when I revisited the program, and I'm seeing food in the garbage, and I'm looking at $480,000 loss, huh? I mean, come on, if the kids are eating, I don't care about the loss.
I'm just saying, I'm going back from a little before I was ever on the board. I've heard many complaints about our lunch program. Not about the lunch people, not about the lunch, but about the actual food itself.
No, they have restrictions on what they can serve, I understand that, but again, you want your children to eat, and when it's wasting the garbage, and we're still wasting money on, something's gotta change. Something system's broken, it's gotta be fixed.
Right.
If the kids are eating and we're still at deficit, fine. If the garbage pails are pure
But that's
garbage
what
and
I'm
our
trying to
food,
think.
fine.
Maybe we gotta look into other, I mean, I don't know how it works, but maybe look into other.
Well, that's why we thought with having the, what do they call it, the co-op. Because I know a few other bigger districts are doing the co-op, and it seems to be a lot less of a deficit in their end than we do. So it's something to consider. So again, I'm anxious to have this woman come in. She was, I thought she was very informative. Any other questions? Any all in favor? Okay, moving on to personnel matters. I need a motion and a second to please schedule 1, resignations, termination, leave of absence.
Motion.
Second. Jackie has a second, all in favor? I need a motion and a second to approve Schedule 2, appointments and salary changes.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
By the way, congratulations.
So I'm just going to introduce Ms. Jacqueline Scria, who is our new Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations. Welcome to the district.
Okay, I need a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 2 through 29. I'm looking for the motion, and then we'll have the discussion. So can I have the motion on the table?
Motion.
I'll second that. Questions?
Yes. Number 3, the NAFME. This is one of those things, the district is paying for, but then there are other things that the district tells me that we can't pay for. So can you explain the difference, Linda? As to why we're paying for these kids to go on this trip and where there are other trips that the district says that they can't pay for?
This has been a conversation point, and we have been discussing in the central office with regards to what the district's responsibility is with regards to trips such as this, and how the district should be supporting. If it was sent to your attention prior to going through the actual approval process, so it is something that we can definitely pull back and reevaluate.
There's a lot of consultant contracts with the special ed services. I just want to make sure that we are getting our maximum reimbursement from Medicaid for these.
We do submit for that on a regular basis, and we do staff permits, services in hospital.
There was a couple of people have reported to my attention that we're not getting our maximum amount of Medicaid. I just want to make sure that we are doing all the paperwork that we can to get that Medicaid reimbursement.
There are certain situations where we're unable to seek reimbursement related to the CTA's contract, but anywhere that we can, we do make every attempt. The standard or the burden of proof is quite significant, and we can only submit in places where our paperwork is truly in order, but we do strive for that.
Okay. All right. Number 11, Global Compliance Network HR tutorials. How long have we used this program?
I don't have the exact, but yeah, it's been here since I've been here. I would have to get back to you with an actual amount of years. It is a significant amount of years, but I don't know the number.
All right, so then, again, we're approving a contract when was there more than one bid approved?
There's very few companies that provide this service. This is an online training, they're mandatory by SED, and there's multiple trainings that all district professionals need to go through, such as right to know, which is health, safety, sexual harassment, and it's $1,400 and we have basically 1,400 employees. So it's a very inexpensive way to make sure that everyone's getting trained.
Number 12, freshman awareness. It's been canceled. They're not doing it overnight in November. Why are we approving speakers for freshman awareness if we have no freshman awareness in November?
It's my understanding that these speakers will be speaking during the freshman awareness portion of student orientation.
I mean, freshman orientation, which is a separate event. So then that needs to be changed to be put under freshman orientation, not freshman awareness. Because we're paying a lot of things under freshman awareness that is not freshman awareness because it's canceled. Freshman orientation was 2 hours long, it's being extended to 7 hours. Freshman awareness was overnight, it got cut back to 1 day, and now it's canceled. So there's a lot of things that need to be adjusted. We're taking all this money from freshman awareness event and approving it when it's really not freshman awareness, it's freshman orientation. So we need to fix that because the public.
So we approving that?
I'm gonna say no on that. I want to pull that one for a separate vote, by the way.
So what are we gonna approve?
I'm not approving this.
Well, I'm saying, can we change it now?
Well, I don't know, I'm asking.
Do you know what it's gonna be used for? Can we change it?
It really should be labeled freshman awareness.
Yeah, it's not freshman awareness, and I know we're staying on the freshman awareness club. Or, you know,
It's
for that line.
freshman orientation.
Okay, so we need to change that.
Change it, make the motion.
These speakers are for August 27th, which has been actually billed as orientation/awareness. And the day has been built around having these speakers and having many of the activities that would normally have happened during freshman awareness now will be happening during this day instead. So this was
So
really.
which budget line are we taking, which club line are we taking it out of? Are we taking it out of awareness or orientation? Because there is no more awareness. It's dead. That's an override event that is
What
being
was
killed.
budgeted?
That's what I'm asking.
This money is being budgeted from freshman awareness. The speakers are generally speakers that have been in freshman awareness. and
No, it's got to come out of the freshman orientation budget.
So there is no more awareness.
Right, so there shouldn't be a budget for that anymore.
Are these people,
Budget's still
are these
there.
people charging
Yes.
as if it was an overnight event?
No, these are speakers.
No, they're speakers for
No, I
a
understand that, but I'm saying.
specific period of time. They don't come in for the overnight. They come in for like 2 hours or
I
an hour.
understand that, but what I'm saying, the reason it looks like it's being billed, you have no speakers, but it's being $1,000.
Yeah, they get that much.
What?
But I don't want to take it out of freshman awareness, so if we're not gonna have freshman awareness club or whatever it's built under with the stipends and everything else that's associated with freshman awareness, then you gotta write the law and put it under freshman orientation.
So,
And the public approved the budget as freshman awareness, and they got killed. I don't think that we can do that.
No, because her concern is that it's coming out of the budget line, it's not what's called.
Right.
So that's something that administratively might have to change.
Yeah, I don't think it's that
This is
easy.
something that needs,
so are we pulling this until it's corrected?
it's up to the board. You vote on it the way it is, or you can make a motion.
Right, I did talk to you about this already.
Withdraw it.
It's planned for August 27th.
But
There was
the
a
budget
memo-
lines are wrong.
There was a memo that came from the principal in October describing that he would want to have, he has a vision for the evolution for the event to have freshman awareness in lieu of the traditional freshman orientation. So it would be a daytime event with speakers, breakout sessions, lunch, high school t-shirts, and really breaking down the barriers and the walls between the two groups of kids coming from RMS and OBMS sooner in the year in August. So this was a memo that came from the principal in October of 2018 describing that. So he doesn't see this as a traditional freshman orientation. He sees this day now supplanting and replacing freshman awareness. That's how it was planned by the advisors of that event and the administrative staff.
So you say, so you say that the advisors, so you're saying that the advisors are agreeing to this new system? They planned it together. I understand from my 5 years volunteering for freshman awareness that it was very well attended by the 9th grade incoming students. I feel that some of the things I've witnessed that night, some children that you would never have thought had been on a radar was picked up that night as, more careful attention being paid to that student. I also heard kids that wanted to leave and then all of a sudden started building relationships and started breaking through their own little insecurities and made friendships. So are you still going to build this program in what Pastor's model of freshman awareness?
And I don't see how you're gonna do what you did in 24 hours instead. Along with orientation. There was never a public check, there always had a check. But he would, but it actually is there, because I was a chaplain for many years.
I mean, was there notification that went out to parents for this August 27th date? So obviously the wheels are in motion already, so you cannot deny having the speaker there. But I just feel that,
Did they have a speaker last year?
At freshman awareness, they did.
At freshman orientation.
This is now an all-day event, so we're parsing terms. It's
This is
No.
really,
There's two budget lines. So that's not parsing terms. There's two separate budget lines. One for awareness, one for orientation.
and
So that's my concern. And we spoke about this earlier. Orientation was 2 hours in the past. You're increasing it to 7. Can we increase that budget line? I don't know. Freshman awareness was 24 hours. It was then cut back to, I think it was 12 or 13 hours
this year,
last year. Despite, it was at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, so that's not really.
No, it started at 4 in the afternoon and ended at about.
I was there at 12.
From an 8, of
Yeah,
the freshman awareness?
Yes.
It starts at 4.
Started at a school.
The kids may start at 4, but the chaperones were there.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So that was cut down significantly, but the prices were never, the budget line was never decreased. As a matter of fact, it was both that, some of the things on there were increased. Speakers get increased every year, so that was never decreased. Now it's cut out altogether. So we have a 24-hour day that was cut down to, say, 12 hours, and the money's still there, but now it's being used for this 2-hour day that's only increased an additional 5 more hours. So I have a particular issue with that. We're spending the same amount of money for even less hours now.
I don't think it's standard. This is really only two speakers. I know when freshman awareness was overnight, it was definitely more than two speakers.
Did we lower the budget line?
I don't know what the budget line is, I right now.
So then we're spending the same amount of money. Is it what? You're right.
Are you still supplying food and doing all that stuff?
No, the PTA supply.
You're definitely doing a lunch. That was part of the plan.
Is the PTA supply the plan, or is the,
You're asking questions.
I know, well, that's what I'm saying.
These are cost
How do I
information
approve,
right now.
right, so how do I approve this when we don't have these answers?
Well, what you're looking to approve is a contract for 2 speakers to speak on August 27th.
Right, what's the dollar amount?
$4,000 for Ed Harry, who actually did freshman awareness last year, and $1,000 for Dr. Cole.
So $5,000 under freshman awareness. So if you want me to approve it, I want that $5,000 to put under the budget on freshman orientation. I have no problem with that as long as it's under the right one, the right
We
line.
can take that out of the general.
I'm okay with that then.
Do you want it included out of?
I want it out of that budget line, out of the freshman orientation line.
Is there a budget line for it?
I don't know.
I don't recall seeing one.
Each club has their own budget line. They all have their own
What
budget line.
orientation did I have one?
Each one of the clubs have their own budgets. Correct? Not clubs, each event, each one of those events have their own budget.
Not necessarily, this usually comes out of the high school.
Okay, well then freshman awareness has its own budget. Right, so I don't want to come in on the freshman awareness budget because I don't think that should necessarily be canceled, and I think that when parents find out that it's canceled, they're gonna come down here and say a lot, have a lot to say. So I would keep that money where it belongs right now.
Is that how everyone else feels on the board?
Well, I just want to vote for a separate. I don't, you guys can vote how you want. That's how I'm gonna vote.
Do you
So
have an
I'll
opinion,
pull that
Lee?
vote separate.
Do you have,
I think we were just talking semantics.
No, we're not, because one has a budget line. It has its own budget. So it's not semantics. It's money.
They're considering it, from what I just heard, they're considering it an awareness. It's semantics, they're considering it an awareness. By bringing 2 groups of children together, 2 different middle schools, trying to make it work, they're doing it a different way, so it's semantics. It's the same thing, as meeting, reading, talking, whatever. It's not orientation. Orientation.
It is, it's under the freshman orientation
Let me ask
day
you
in
something.
August, which is traditionally
I
done
got a
in
question.
August.
Can we just, and I know this is not how you guys want to do it, but I'm just saying, isn't there a way to make the day broken up? Like, and I'm just throwing it out there,
You
so
can't change one now, because the principal's not here.
I'm just asking, Dr. Adams.
I just said how I do.
Can you say that the orientation, if you send the flyer to kids or emails or how you guys are gonna do it, is there a way to make it where it is 2 programs, but it's 2 programs, even though it's not how we would have liked it and how it was in the past, but if you're gonna do it this way, for budgeting purposes, can't you make orientation from this time to that time, and then call it awareness from this time to this time? Kids don't want to attend, then they're
That's
not
what
going to
they're
attend.
doing. That's what
Yes,
they're doing.
but then-
However, awareness
You don't
has a
wanna
budget
tell-
for 24 hours.
Listen, even though it's not how we would have liked it.
No, but you can't just take the money.
I
throw it over there
understand that, I
when
mean,
it's up.
but we
Without
don't want to
reducing
hurt
the
the
line.
kids
We're not,
and not
so this
have.
is what I just said.
But
Make this, take this money from
27.
freshman orientation. Listen to me, like, pay attention, 1 second.
I understand.
Freshman orientation, call it number 12, not freshman awareness. Do not call it
I understand what
freshman
you're
awareness.
saying.
Leave that money alone, call it freshman orientation, and I know, well,
I
leave
understand.
that money for freshman awareness alone until this all gets worked out.
I understand what you're saying, just don't want it to affect the kids.
Then it won't, because
Then
they
it
call
affects
it,
the
then
kids
you're
on-
taking, no, it doesn't, because I'm gonna approve it if it's under freshman orientation.
All right, but what we
I
may-
don't want that budget
But
money
if
under
we
freshman
go right
orientation.
now, it may get approved under us,
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
okay. As long as I go on the record saying that I'm not gonna
I
approve
understand.
money from a awareness club that has a
I
budget
understand.
for orientation.
I don't
So
want to
however
hurt the
you
kids
guys want to do this,
having
I'll do it.
orientation awareness, however they're gonna do it. Even
Wanna
though
pull
it
it,
may
leave
not
it as
be the
is,
best way
or you
or
wanna
the way
change it
you
to
want it,
orientation?
you don't want what they are doing to hurt the kids.
I'm saying I don't care.
Because if they have to
Let's go
pay
there.
these speakers or these speakers,
So,
I've
and,
known
then, and so
before.
now we have
Our
freshman
next
awareness, so
meeting
what
is
are the
August
speakers will
20.
use for freshman awareness?
They say our next meeting is August 20th. So give them 7 days.
I'm not
Again,
saying that
I-
not to approve it, Jackie.
They're-
So you're not paying attention, you're not
No, I
listening.
understand, you want them to do it.
I want it from the right code.
But what I'm saying, I understand.
Put it under the orientation
But if
code.
it is,
There is no
if
orientation.
they're doing it as
Then
awareness
don't take it
as
from the
well,
awareness club money. That's what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying, but it's
So
not
how do you want to do this?
it
You want to pull it for a separate vote? Or do you want to leave it under, or you want to change it as freshman orientation? I don't care how we do it.
So do we have a code? Because I'm understanding that we do not.
It's under the principal's budget.
So let's just.
But awareness does have a.
All right, so this can be taken out of the principal's budget, then we can vote on that.
I'm okay with that.
We
Put
can
it
do
under the
that.
principal's
Put it
budget.
in the principal's budget.
But it has to say that specifically, I want it to say that.
That's his idea, let him take it out of his budget.
I have no problem with that. I'll prove it in.
Stop that.
That's fine, I can't find the budget right now. I'm looking at it.
Dean's in there looking for something too.
All right, so in the meantime, we're going to my next questions.
And please,
I'm trying. The funds transfer was not opening up for me, so I wasn't able to see that. Is there any way I can get a printout of that really quick? Mary Jane, the funds transfer, it wasn't opening up for me? Thank you. Hold that 1 second. The trip on number 18 was $50 per child. What does the district pay for? Who pays for the chaperones? And is there a stipend paid for this?
18?
Yes.
It's,
That's what it said on
the
on
district is covering the $150 entry fee because that was what was budgeted for. The track club is covering everything else.
But on the paper, it said $50 per kid.
Yeah, that's what the memo for you, to you folks earlier this week from Mr. Middleman. The athletic department is paying the entry fee of $150. The school district supplies transportation as per past practice, and the athletic department reimburses the coaches for meals. Everything else is being covered by the track club.
So, what's the total of the, well, I said after the trip's over, I don't know if the total of the district paid. Okay, where is backup docs for the contract, on number 21? There's no contract, just a little blurb.
That's no short tracks in that.
Okay. No one just protect the student's name, right?
It's an actual invoice.
Okay, gotcha. But that's the board event usually gets to see.
Yes, at one point the invoice was attached, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's not there. Number 22, it's $32,100. This is, can you explain what this is exactly? It's,
These are the athletic trainers and the physicians for sideline coverage. It's mandated by Section 11 that at all home football games, we provide medical coverage, and that's part of this.
this is just for football?
No, this is also for the athletic trainer because we no longer have a staff member who is an athletic trainer. So we, he no longer does it. That's from this service. That's from this contract. So we pay St. Charles to provide us with a full-time athletic trainer.
So what if there's a game, a football game in, what's another sport that plays football?
Soccer.
Okay, what if there's,
They're in the court. No, the only place that you need a doctor, a sideline physician, is football. That's mandated.
okay.
But the athletic trainer works with all the kids in the fields.
We actually use St. Joel's,
Yes.
we don't hire somebody from here.
He used to be somebody 2 years
We used
ago.
to. Yeah.
I think he's gone, it was 2 years now.
This is his second year. That yes, no longer doing it.
Sure.
Number 24, facilities use. And so, Jackie, this is partly your question too. So, I think this has to be a policy change, but I just want to double check. Jackie had a question that somebody, so people charge $1,100, $500, but on, no, this goes to number 24 here though. So, and does this have to be policies, what I want to know, I think it's your regulation actually. So like PTAs, and we've talked about this many times, like PTAs that are using the building for one-time use, you know, for a spring sale, or then you have the swim club that uses it all the time, almost exclusively, or you have the Duffield Fields being used almost exclusively. Those should be like a lease agreement. But the one-time uses for our internal PTAs, for our sports clubs that meet all the criteria and have all the right kids from our district, I think that we should get rid of that fee schedule.
We can't, and this is something that we've had the attorneys look into multiple times, because we cannot have public funds fund a private organization. So even though the PTAs have a relationship with the district and they are, you know, integral partners with the district, they are still a private organization. So we cannot provide district funds to staff employees that would not normally be in the building. So I'm going to just use Sycamore, for example. If the Sycamore PTA wanted to have an event in the kindergarten atrium on a Saturday when the building is normally closed, we would have to bring in custodians. The district cannot pay for those custodians. That cost must be incurred by the outside organization. So we cannot get rid of the, and that's why.
Why can't we just charge them the actual cost then? Wouldn't that be cheaper than?
We charge them the average cost of what the event is. And sometimes it's a little bit more, and sometimes it's a little bit less than the actual cost.
There was a fee that was dealt for a CYO track meet. And CYO is a Catholic Youth Association, they're not-for-profit, they keep their prices extremely low. I know from my own, I know from my own personal experience, I have children that have been in CYOs, and I actually have kids that are in CYO and CYA right now as you speak. And the fees are 100% different. I mean, you go from one that's extremely expensive to one that's extremely cheap. And if our fees are high, their fees are gonna go up. And while we have a lot of people in our community that want their kids to play sports, and especially the younger community, and you know, I just didn't understand. I mean, I'm gonna see what you guys can look into it. How once somebody, let's say, said we could use the track at the high school for a track meet, that's a memorial track meet to a girl that died in our school district years ago, and it was supposed to be $500, and the bill came in at $1,100. And I know that I know specifically that they use porta potties, and I know what they've done for Cherokee and for other fields, that they've donated at least $600,000 into fields. I know that they've done Slocum, Duffield, and Cherokee through the years. So, I mean, I understand everything has to be equal, but equal is not always fair. Fair is not always equal. We have different sports teams, and one is charging $250 for a kid, and one is charging $40. You know, that's what I was telling.
We would have to look at the whole thing, because I don't know if they could provide that 50% of the folks who are going to be Connecticut residents, and that just changed the fee structure. So, you know, we're looking at number 24, which was what Eileen brought up originally. This is Metropolitan Youth Orchestra. They are a not-for-profit organization. but they're not half Connecticut students. So they can charge a different rate than folks who are owned, or, 100% owned, or more than 50%. So I think that may be the difference, but I'm guessing at this point. So if you want to, bring that bill in and show, that would be great.
Well, I have to ask them.
Now, what are we charging number 25 then? Swim club, that's my last question.
I would have to get what their payment is, but it is a significant payment.
Swim club?
Oh, yeah. So is the MY was a significant amount of money.
We still have to open up that piece, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I just need to know what we're doing with the orientation. Am I pulling it for a separate vote, or are you changing to orientation?
The budget line says high school awareness contractual. We can definitely change the budget title.
That's high school awareness. What about orientation? That's the one, I know awareness has a budget line. I knew that.
I don't think there is a high school orientation
So then that
budget.
comes out of the principal's budget, correct?
Any supplies that we would.
Okay.
That would.
So then if you want to change it so that we're taking it out of the principal's budget, I have no problem with it. Otherwise, I'm going to pull it for a separate vote because I won't approve it out of the freshman awareness budget. I won't.
We can
myself.
transfer it between the two codes.
No, I don't want you to transfer it between the two, but that's my point. Freshman awareness, parents want it.
The freshman awareness budget line.
I think parents are gonna want the freshman awareness, and if they don't want it, then so be it,
So
then get rid of that
I'm
budget.
sorry, I'm confused. So you don't want us to transfer the money out?
No, I want you to take it out of the
Leave the
principal's
money
budget.
there, but take this specifically out of the budget of the principal.
Okay, so I don't have this year's budget in front of me, but the contractual services code, which is what this would come out of for the high school, looks like it's about $1,700, which means that we don't have enough money in the contractual services code at this moment. But I don't look for a separate vote.
I'm not gonna do it.
I don't want to see these kids miss out on
And then
everything.
the ninth grade's gonna miss out on 24 hours. And then when all the parents come up and yell, I'm gonna make sure that they yell.
They should yell at me, you know what I'm
I have no
saying?
problem.
You know what I'm saying? I'll tell them right there, I will tell them right to their
You
faces.
understand that I don't care if it goes through or
We
it doesn't
can
go through?
fight
I'm
and
gonna make
cheat
sure it
for
goes
the
the right way.
24 hours.
I have to make
But
sure I
we're
do
at
things
the
my right
point
way.
where you do realize that
I'm
they're not going
okay.
to.
Jackie, I'm not fighting with you. You vote how you wanna vote. I'm gonna vote how I think it should be done. I've been through this many years now.
Going to approve the 24-hour, then what we're saying to the.
We don't know
teachers,
that.
okay, then you don't get anything. And I
That's
don't
not what
want
I'm
that-
saying at all.
I don't want that either.
Put us for a separate vote.
She's saying it's not.
$1,500 in there, because that's, they don't do contractual services.
Because they're stealing it from the freshman awareness budget, right? Which shouldn't be there if you're killing freshman awareness.
I do see your point.
Yeah.
But I don't want to pull something from the.
I agree, that's why I'm saying we'll vote for a separate.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not gonna vote for it
I
that way.
think we all agree that the overnight is better. I do. I just think it's sad that you don't want the kids to not
It's gonna
speak.
go through, it's gonna go through, as long as I know that I vote my way, which is the way I feel is the right way. I have to vote the way I feel is the right way, you vote with your kids.
I just don't want the kids to miss out.
The kids are not gonna do that.
You know, I agree with having the overnight, but if they're not gonna do that, then you.
Because they can't change the budget code,
Then I'm
but they
not
shouldn't
gonna-
have that budget line then.
I'm not.
So
gonna-
you, what you just did was you ignored the public,
No, but
by
I'm
telling
not.
the public that you're giving them freshman awareness and you made them vote on the budget, and they said okay, and now we're not really giving them freshman awareness, and that's, I have a problem with that. That's my interpretation of it, and I have a problem with that. Personally, I have a problem with that, so I can't vote for it like that.
understand.
Okay.
But you do
Okay.
understand
That's
that
it.
then these kids might get go to
I'm not-
orientation awareness and have no speakers.
That's right.
And there'll be no speakers.
Okay, so I'm going to pull number 12 for a
Yep.
separate vote. Okay, so we're going to approve items 2 through 29, excluding item number 12. Well, that will be pulled for a separate vote. So can I take, all right, so we already have a motion on the table. But we have to exclude number 12.
Yeah.
So I'll do an all in favor for items 2 through 29, excluding 12.
Aye.
Okay, now I'm taking a separate vote for the item 12, freshman awareness guest speakers.
No.
I need a motion to
But I
take
want-
it.
can I ask a question? Hold on a second. Dr. Adams, is there a reason why they got rid of the 24 hours?
They could not find, last year, on October 15th, when we were looking for chaperones, they had 15 of the 30 chaperones
speaks to on the awareness meeting. So they asked to move it to a school day event that started in the school day and went to midnight rather than overnight.
Who asked? Is it the teachers, is it the parents?
Mr. They only had 15 people that wanted to do be part of the Chaperones to Run Awareness Week.
So you have 15 people, but yet they're gonna get people in August 27 to come and do it. So they don't wanna give up a fall, spring.
Overnight is an issue. Sleeping in the high school, being a
So then why did,
professional sleeping in
no,
high
okay, I hear that piece. So then why didn't they just keep the day in November like they normally do? So you're saying that it's easier to get volunteers in August than November?
And really what, and I'm speaking for Mr. Costa, and I shouldn't do that, but he really wants all kids to be there for this event. And he felt that 90 to 95% of the kids, the freshmen, will come for orientation and then stay through some of these other events.
I'll be there, because I was able to get you off notes.
That's he was trying to make it more.
I personally thought this was something nice for the kids to do in November, because they got, they got a system of their classes, how things run, and now just sort of a nice recap of meeting other students. So now basically, you're gonna have an August 27th orientation, and then that's it. There's no team building after that. You're done.
That's it.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
I actually like the team building in November.
So this was emailed to the board on October 18th. Said, "Dear Dr. Adams, the decision to change the Freshman Awareness Week into a night event was decided upon as a response to the issues associated with chaperones, and we wanted to hold an event that is more inclusive to our freshmen."
About that, I should have made mention that I thought that was not true, because I was there, and there was plenty of chaperones. There was plenty of people that were willing to do it, so I don't understand.
So last year, they had 15 of 30 chaperones that were needed, and they were faced with two options: to either cancel the awareness weekend or push it back to the school year and repost for awareness evening
All right,
chaperones.
so those are paid. So now those people feel differently in August versus November?
Right, and you
I don't know.
We knew about that in October, why did we keep it on the budget then?
Well, because he's in his vision, again, I'm speaking for him and he's not here tonight.
Yeah,
So
I
he
get that.
said we want to see the event evolve into an event that is all-inclusive and staff-friendly. We would like to reschedule the evening. This was last year between the winter and spring sports seasons. This will give us more time to work on the chaperone situation. Our vision for the evolution of this event is to have freshman awareness in lieu of the traditional freshman orientation that takes place in August. We will make it a daytime event with speakers, breakout sessions, lunch, and of course, CHS t-shirts. So he was laying out the plan,
That way?
but he was laying out the plan to have freshman awareness in lieu of freshman orientation. So it is not the same event as freshman orientation, which is come on in, meet some people, walk through the building, get your schedules. It's a more blown out day with breakout sessions, speakers, time to mix and mingle and have lunch together. So he sees it, and again, I'm speaking for him and I shouldn't, but he sees that freshman awareness in lieu of the traditional.
Okay, so I'm just gonna give you my, experience with 3 children that went through the high school for orientation. They went in there, they got their lockers, they got their schedule, they couldn't wait to get the heck out of there. They were not gonna stay for school because it was a summer day, they could not wait to go to the beach. They would not stay. That was my 3 children.
It's a pilot, so we can look at it and.
I hope that there's a lot of kids. All right, I'm ready to vote. I'm good.
I have to be honest, it's the same. I mean, I had kids that went through it, they couldn't wait to get out. It was a beautiful day, that was the last place they wanted to do, and plus the high school was so hot.
Yeah.
That's the last place they wanted to be on a hot day, but, all right, somebody has a vision, let's see how that works out.
And again, I'm concerned about the budget, I'm the taxpayers.
All right, so we already did the 2 through 29, excluding 12, so now we're gonna vote on item 12.
Yeah.
So I need a motion and a second for 12.
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Who's abstaining?
Mark.
Mark's abstaining. Jackie?
Right now,
I'm gonna say no because of the budget.
I know,
And
here's
the way
the
my
problem.
taxpayers voted.
I don't want the kids to miss out on having speakers. But I don't love the idea of them doing it August 27th. is there any way that we can, I mean, is it already set in stone?
Awareness.
I mean, I'm just asking, is it already set in stone, or is there any way to even look into September? I agree with,
Keep the freshman awareness and
can't,
do it in November.
I don't want the kids to miss out on the speakers, so I'm for that,
Which they get in
100%.
November.
But I'm for it, regardless, because I don't want them to miss out.
That's all
I don't.
it is.
But I have to say from experience, I have to say from experience of last year walking through and I did go for orientation at RMS, and it was literally extremely fast. And then I went to the high school with my niece, and she was going in last year, and again, it wasn't, so I do know that that is true, and it is hot, and I do agree that August, I think, is gonna be rough to get these kids in. I mean, I went to the RMS one, and I was one of the only people that was walking around the hallways in the heat. Everybody else wanted to, was in and out.
You want to spend $5,000 on speakers with nobody there?
I don't want to do that, that's what I'm saying. But I'm asking for a solution, rather than being part of the problem, let's be part of the
We
solution.
can't, we don't.
Well, that's why I'm saying,
We're not allowed to, that's the building
is there a way for the is there a way for you guys to have the building principal see if he wants to do something? If there's a way for him to move the date. Again, I'm not telling him what to do, I'm just asking. Or is it already set?
We can consult with it.
That's what I'm saying, that's all I'm asking. Rather than, I would rather not vote right now. I would rather see if we can move the date
You want to
into
wait till
September.
August 20th to vote?
No, I don't want to do that because I don't want to leave the kids
Let's
without
do a special
speakers.
meeting again. We have several.
Well, that's fine.
several
I'll come
hundred-
for a
At least
special
this is for,
meeting.
I'll come back for a special meeting for children, absolutely.
All right, so then
I've been at every special
Linda,
meeting.
can we table this until we
Working
get
for
more
life.
information? Can we
I'm
vote on
okay
the
with that.
table then?
Yep, I'm okay with that.
Vote on the table.
Table.
Okay, we're tabling it
I'll
to,
come back for a special meeting.
I will always come back for a special meeting for a kid. I'm good with that. I will come. I'll come
all right,
back.
take this as
Tell me
letter.
when I go away, because I go away.
Table
I
to
can't
the
cancel my
to the
vacation.
next meeting.
What?
You're gonna make a motion to table to the next meeting?
Yeah,
Yes.
or, yeah,
Yes.
right now, or special meeting, whatever.
Lee, are you tabling?
Motion
Are you
to table.
agreeing to table?
I don't have a choice, you got three people, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we-
Okay, so we're gonna table number 12.
So you're gonna do it first, a second, and then?
Yeah, motion.
So I need a motion to table.
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're moving on to public comment. Same rules apply. Please come to the podium, address the board president.
I'm just curious to know, and I know that there's a building principal, but at what point, especially when the majority and the superintendent maybe feel that it's better to go one way, is there no option to override the principal and say, this is what we really feel is better, whether it be the overnight or the majority of the day, not the overnight? I mean, you know, in my opinion, there's a reason that some of the teachers don't volunteer for it anymore. They always have. And you know, there's a common denominator sometimes. And I think that has to be looked at. What, you know, there are a few things that have been pulled away from kids under this particular principal's years. And at some point, we have to look at it and say, you know, why is this going on? Why is this going on? There's certain stuff that I feel you guys need to say, nope, sorry. This is what, you know, I know that you guys have heard from parents and things about freshman awareness. At what point do we say, no, you know what, we appreciate your thoughts, your plan, you know, but we feel like it's not the way to go with this. We've heard from parents. We know that it's worked in the past. What's going on? Why can't we do it this way? Why are your teachers not happy about it anymore? And so at some point we have to open our eyes and see that there are some people that have just taken stuff away from kids over the years, and it's enough now. It's enough.
Thank you.
Try to fix the problems for the kids. You know, it's easier to just say, yeah, let's don't do it. Yeah, let's don't let them park anymore. We can't, you know, let's a million, you know, not a million, but a handful of things that have gone bye-bye under these last handful of years.
Thank you.
And another thing I wanted to say, this was just a little thing that I thought was great. At graduation, and maybe they do it every year and I just never noticed it, but there was a woman who I think I found out later was the librarian, who, you know, when my kid was walking off with the hair and the collar, and she fixed every single one of them.
They do that.
And sent them, do they do that every year?
They have, one of the chaperones who
Wow.
that day.
Well, so
Yes.
that was, it really was, I mean, I've never seen 5 kids go on, and I have never seen her, but I guess where I was sitting this time, and she was kind, and while they were going like this, she was fixing them, and I just thought that was great.
That's awesome.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks.
I'd like to follow up with that because Christopher was going to have his on sideways and she fixed it.
There you go.
I was very happy about that. My question is, if this letter was written in October and we voted on the new budget, why was it not changed for the freshman orientation for the line items, the difference between awareness
So I
and...
think it's the interpretation of the event, and I think under the building principal's direction, the interpretation of the event shifted from an overnight to a daytime activity. The awareness portion of it, in his mind, still fit those parameters, so that's why there wasn't a budget change.
You know, just to piggyback on that, when you go from 24 hours to even 12 hours, you can cut in half. Dollar amounts have to be adjusted.
I'm not suggesting that the dollar.
You know?
That's, honestly, that's just my only concern from the taxpayer side of it. The minute we start approving things in the budget and now switching them for different means and moving money in different places, that creates gray areas financially, and the auditor just literally presented about that.
Right, so I think the actual change in dollar amounts comes more from the amount of chaperones, and the
Okay.
amount of pay that we would be extending throughout the night.
It's just something that should be thought about, though, in the planning process. If they knew back in October, then it should have been like planned and set for the new budget. That's where I think it makes me a little bit leery as the taxpayer, like, why wasn't this put in there in the budget that way? And now we're moving money around, and that just doesn't sit comfortable for me. But outside of that, I'd like to invite everybody to SEPTA's Ice Cream Social, because we won't be adjourned, we won't have another meeting before then. It is August 15th, it's here, it's at 6:30 at night. Everybody can come have some ice cream, hang out with the SEPTA families, and enjoy some nice summer days before the school year begins. It's at 6:30 p.m. It's here on the 15th, it'll be right outside. 15th. It is a Thursday.
If I don't go to Virginia, I'll be there.
I will have vanilla, I will have chocolate, and I will have rainbow ices for those that have allergies.
Thank you.
We'll all be there.
Hi, good evening. So I noticed that the first public session, people were very passionate about their coworkers and what they see and what their abilities may be. And I appreciate it. There were several members of my unit who you probably heard from. They're coworkers, and I appreciate their loyalty. As you know, we like them loyal to Connecticut and to their peers. But I had to remind them that when a member of my unit wants to move within district, they may put in for another building or an upgrade, a higher title. It is up to the principal or the director or an assistant superintendent to decide who fits there. I've had girls that are upset. I didn't get it. I said, they have to hire for continuity. I did the hiring and payroll because I need to know that I can function with them. And this board hired their secretary because you were looking for your fit. So it's not about that we're not loyal or that they shouldn't. And I said they should show their passion. but they also need to understand that there are back factors. And I think when passion rises, they lose that sight, that everybody needs to be able to work with that person. You have to have some kind of connection. And it may not always be right, it may feel wrong, but it still has to fit. You wouldn't want somebody here that you didn't value. You would look to get rid of that person. So that's why when you hire, you're looking for the fit. And it may be unfortunate that people we have in-house, as talented as they are and as good as they are, may not be a fit for any position that's available. And it is sad, and we can be sad for our coworkers. But that being said, the other units all have the same thing. There are teachers that went for APs, they didn't make it because they weren't a fit, or they didn't have what was going to make that a full package. So as much as I know passions are running high, I think at this point, with the school year coming, we might need to settle it down and realize that it's not always the time for that individual. So, and that is what I'm advising my members. You had your say, but now understand that it is up to each faction to figure out what's going to work for them. And hopefully these people can have more experience or learn more, and then in another time, it's available to them. So just because the passions are high doesn't, you know, I think there's a backside to it that I just wanted to voice.
Thank you.
Okay?
Anybody else? Okay.
I'm also going to do a commercial. So thank you for inviting us all to the high school social.
I was gonna bring flyers and I didn't.
Look, I
so
have a pretty flyer, but it's not yours, I'm sorry.
I could email it to you
You can, we'll
guys.
put it on the website. The Connect What Cares Coalition, along with their partner, the Bohemia Fire Department, is presenting Wonder, which is an absolutely fabulous movie, free, at the Bohemia Fire Department. Bring your blanket, bring your kids, enjoy the movie at their alcohol-free family event. Snacks will be available for purchase from the Spot food truck. Is that like a cool thing? I don't know. Sounds like a cool thing. But desserts and giveaways.
Desserts on the spot.
Desserts on the spot. That's it. Okay, desserts on the spot. Okay, cool. So that will be, and I don't want to take away your thunder. It's going to be August 14th.
Yes.
But if it rains, it's going to be August 15th. But you can come do ice cream and then go to the movie at 7 o'clock.
I'm gonna, Linda.
Yes. They're moving, you're crazy. The field, oh, you know what? The field opens at 7, but the movie starts at 8. So you can stay for the SEPTA meeting, you can have your ice cream, and then you can go to the movie. How about that?
We'll do a rain dance.
There you go.
Wonder,
Yes,
we talked about having that in schools.
yes.
You still can't get that in schools?
It's a licensing issue, and the school's licensing fee is pretty high. So I know that we were looking into that. That's why CPAC is doing it, because Gail got on it, and she's like, you need to watch this movie, and they don't have the same kind of licensing structure.
I know our fifth grade is not this year, last year, went from Cherokee, they came all with the whole breed, but like saw the movie, that was an excellent idea.
Anybody else? Need a motion and a second to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you
Good night,
for
all.
coming.
Good night, Grace.